Alright, so we're in RedM, we're in my server. This is the way we currently have the fast travel system, is just being used by those ones, but what I wanted to do was replicate the original. So I have found the IPLs that load in each of the fast travel posts, these little posts with a skull on it and a wheel here. Around every single one of these is, technically speaking, well, each one is a model ID. So essentially what's happening is every half second a volume is being created around Arthur here, and it's checking for all items in that area. And you can see by walking up to that post, we've now done a check, and the post is now in our range, so it's pulling up a prompt group. So that's the first part of that puzzle. We've got the prompt group. The prompt group is now opening up, and we can now trigger the fast travel menu. Now the fast travel menu has to be built, then loaded, then built, then loaded. So in each case or instance, we're in fact transitioning between entries of an already open app by creating a menu and giving it a new hash, or what we then do is we reload it and just load the parts of the information in that we need. So essentially you can change the pages of the fast travel on the fly if you want. You just have to reload them while you're doing it. So we load that up, the fast travel loads up over that side. You can see there I've already kind of got the values of this. Madkiwi made this using native UI app, and you can see this because it's not currently utilizing the NUI dev tools. If we load this up, there is no fast, well, there is a fast travel, but that's the actual one I'm using. That's the built-in one. It's not the native ones that it's using there. It's the script that I have running over there. So because I don't currently have this hooked up, we'll just close it that way. So before you saw fast travel favorites. Now what I just did was I reran the menu, which because the menu was open, it closed the menu. But now when I rerun it, the values will have changed because of the fact that I'm now running a different function. So I closed it using the text function, which rewrites the functions differently than the opening function. So if you look there, now we've got fast travel, travel locations. This is fast travel using native functions. So you basically can rebuild the menu on the fly and just refresh it by, reloading the UI page. Once again, I can't close this using the native functions yet because I have not built that. So in the case of having this open, there are events hooked directly to the thing here. So we'll open it again using left alt, and you'll be able to hear the events triggering. So if I press back, you hear it trigger. There's the event being called by two different functions. One is message peak and one is look into message data, but I don't believe I'm passing it the right information right now. I think I was just running them both to see if they ran. But these are the events coming from this particular fast travel. So what we're actually seeing here is if we press E or Q to switch between pages, what we could be doing is transitioning between different sections. If the item list were fully populated in here, you would physically see up and down moving in and up on those items. Because this is also a native UI as well, I noticed this yesterday. The ones that I was looking at in Dakota, the city that I play in, they're HTML. They're incredibly good replications, but they're just clearly replications because I was hovering over top of them and realized I was able to highlight the text, so they're HTML, which is interesting because they looked bloody realistic. It was one of the reasons I got interested in doing it in the first place, was because I wasn't 100% sure that they didn't already have some of this code. But it's clear now that they can't have. So that is basic fast travel in a nutshell. These events that come up from those essentially tell you what item you're selecting, and the item comes through and delivers the entire item object. So its title, its location, any information that's packed into that object. So I'm going to create a couple of overloaders, throw it into the objects, things like vectors and waypoints and extra graphics, and then just make it so that if you select an item and you hit OK, it just teleports you. Again, that isn't done yet because I haven't simply had time, but this is all native. You know, I'm using a native volume check to bring up a native prompt group that then loads the native information window, and as far as I can tell, memory wise, it doesn't actually seem to affect the memory of the game having any of these open, because in essence they're always technically loaded in the background. They're just not active until you fill them in with information and load them. If we hadn't loaded in any of this information, it would have just loaded as a black box, which is useless, but it's interesting that that's how it works. That your header and footer information and that your main content information all have to be backfilled, and then you load that app. And if you're going to make a new section, you create the page and then you transition to that so that it can see that you've kind of, moved between those sections. It's a very, very neat little complex system that I'm learning a lot about, and I'm sure once I have the inventory structures built as well, I'll possibly know enough to maybe do more. But what I'm planning on doing is having it so that this particular fast travel will have a main page that loads up and offers you things like, if your waypoint is active, it will activate a certain thing that says fast travel to waypoint, which will be an exorbitant amount of money. Fast travel to your camp will be a reasonable amount of money. Fast traveling to any of the towns will be some money, you know what I mean? And then there'll be one or two places that might just be free, But each of those will be categories, and the goal is to try and make it so that when you rock up, if you're not on a horse and you do this, you should just be able to rock into this menu, press Q and E to go between the various different, so starts off with a default, so travel to waypoint, travel to camp, travel to, travel to house, travel to, whatever, or travel to current mission. You could have things like your different mission starters, so you could have, travel to bounty hunter headquarters, travel to criminal headquarters, things like that. So that's at least something there. So yeah, that's basically fast travel in a nutshell, motherfucker, and we are well on the way. That code is already there. I'm getting it all cleaned up for the Lua version of it, and then you can have the Lua version of it to build a much tidier, much cleaner C version of it. So yeah, there you go. Mike the Madkiwi makes native fast travel because why? Because no fucking body else seems to be. Anyway, love your fucking faces. You know the drill. Throw a follow if you like that shit.